Hello, my name is Mia Lippert, and for my final presentation, I'm going to be talking about tool use among non-human primates and what it tells us about their cognition. Um, as an introduction, I wanted to start off by defining what tool use is, which is the behavior where animals utilize objects from their environment to perform specific tasks that enhance their ability to survive or interact with their surroundings. What first got me really interested in the subject is I took Anthropology 104 my freshman year of college, which was just Introduction to Biological Anthropology. And we talked a lot about tool use, and I remember specifically learning that gorillas will use a stick to test the depth of a river before walking through it. I thought that was so interesting, and that it told us so much about what's going on in the brains of um, certain primates, and that, like, the complexities of what they know about their environment. Um, I don't know. I was really intrigued by that. I think especially as a psych major, it's as well. I do a lot of studying of the human brain and human cognition and human behavior. I never really get an opportunity to look at those of animals. It's totally something I would be interested in. I just like don't really have time to do research on my own about it. So I was really happy to see this as a topic list or on the topic list, and get the opportunity to further research it. My question for this presentation is, what does tool use among non-human primates tell us about cognition? In this presentation, I'm going to do the introduction, which I'm finishing up right now, the importance of studying tool use, origins of tool use and discoveries made, and then examples of studies, like specific studies and what they specifically tell us about the cognition of primates. So, tool use is important to study because, of course, it gives us insight on the cognition of non human primates that we wouldn't be able to get through just any old behavior. Additionally, studying tool use and cognition of the primates of today gives us insight on the primates of the past and how they evolved cognitively, culturally, and more. It can also give us insight on ourselves and like early humans and how they behaved. Later on, I'm going to be talking about capuchin monkeys and a study done on them, but I got this quote from an article which I'm going to read. I think it really summarizes how primates of today can give us insight on our past selves and early humans. So it is that capuchins make a compelling model to identify independently evolved traits to track the evolutionary roots of stone tool use and to understand which features of a species ecology led to these rare adaptations. Essentially, we can compare behavior from different primates to our own and find out more information about the way early humans lived. Additionally, we can learn about the differences between human and primate culture, and then also how populations of the same culture behave differently and why, and their unique experiences. The photo to the right shows a non-human primate's brain and the activity that goes on during tool use. Obviously, there are different activities going. I think it's a good representation of how complex tool use is because, of course, there's like the motor abilities that are going off in the brain, but at the same time, there's like planning, like a lot of frontal lobe development as well. Um, a lot of frontal lobe function as well. All right, I wanted to give a brief background of the history of when we first started like observing tool use and what what we learned. Um, First chimpanzee tool use was first observed in the 1840s, but no long-term like in-depth research had been done until over 100 years later by Jane Goodall. We all know her and we all love her. She was in Tanzania and observed chimps using a stick probe to get termites out of a termite hill. She really popularized the concept, and it made us rethink a lot of our prior ideas about the intelligence of animals and the intelligence of humans as well, because we were defined as the tool users for so long. We thought that we were the only creatures or species that um, ever used tools or that knew how to use them. So seeing this really revolutionized a lot of those ideas, and yeah, made us have to redefine what humans are in terms of the animal kingdom. So just a quick background on things that we already know. Tool use is learned through experience and through overtime. There isn't a simple connection between tool use and reward. It goes much deeper than that. Experiences with tool use vary between species and individuals in the species. Tool use is used more frequently and with more precision depending on the environment that a species or individual or population lives in. A quote that I found that really summarizes the complexities of tool use that I found, it was very profoundly like, wow, when I read it, that just like put together the complexities of the different regions of the brain that are being used is finding new solutions to physical problems involves not only background knowledge about object properties, but also an ability to use that information to predict how a tool will behave when acted on. Tools are used in, sorry, yeah, that's the quote. I think that's so interesting, and I think it really does summarize all of these ideas. Um, but yeah, finally, that an interesting fact is that tools are used in more versatile and multi-purpose ways in non-human primates than any other animal. Um, so yeah, and then a quick overview of the different tools that I'll kind of be discussing. There, of course, are more than these, but these were talked about the most in the articles that I read. Um, Anvils are a heavy object that are dropped onto another object to break it, um, or to do some other task. The important thing about this is that they are dropped. They're not hammered, they're just dropped. And you can see a chimp about to drop a rock onto a nut to crack it. The next one are stick probes. Stick probes are used to poke around or reach into something that a primate wouldn't be able to reach with its limbs, like a stick dipped into the anthill. You can't reach your whole hand into an anthill. Another thing, later on, I'm going to be showing a video of a chimp using a probe. And in the video, it shows that the chimp first tries to put its hand in and it gets stung. And so it realizes that it should be using something that doesn't get it stung. So that's another use of a stick probe. And you can see a chimp using one in the image below. And then finally, hammers. They're kind of similar to anvils, usually used to crack or break something, but they are handheld and smacked over and over instead of being dropped. And you can see an orangutan in a zoo using like a branch to hammer some nuts or seeds. Okay, so one of the studies that I'm going to be discussing is with capuchin monkeys and rocks. I briefly mentioned this earlier. I think this is so fascinating. Basically, the study was, there was a few wild capuchin monkeys that were taken and observed for this. There were two sets of rocks. One was man-made. The sets looked identical. One was man-made, and they were a lot less dense and heavy than the real ones that were obviously a lot more dense and heavy. So when they were presented with these, and like the task at hand was to break open a nut. In response, the monkeys inspected each rock, but only chose the heavy ones in order to complete the task, demonstrating a deliberate choice of tool use and understanding which would be best to complete the task. Capuchin monkeys are not random in the tools that they select for their actions. They are intentional and look for tools that would most efficiently help them achieve their goal. Additionally, showing evidence on planning and goal setting in species. They evaluate the density of a rock, although there are plenty to use indicating causal reasoning and planning. And then the photo below is a photo exactly from this, or a series of photos taken directly from this study, of the capuchin monkey finding the rock, inspecting it, and bringing only a certain one back to use. Yeah, the next study I'm going to be discussing is with chimps, involves chimps and teaching. So a lot of studies from the past have made a lot of observations from the past have made a lot of scientists conclude that teaching doesn't exist, like deliberate teaching. It's more observation and learning from observation. But in this study, we can see like deliberate teaching of the chimps. So, wild chimps have been observed sharing termite probes with their young after demonstrating how to use it. This is considered teaching because there is a demonstration and sacrifice of their own, which is giving someone else their tool, and sacrificing the amount of food that they're going to get because the young is a lot less experienced. And in response to this, we see that the mothers will find either multiple sticks and give one to their young and keep one for themselves, or even break the stick in half. The study shows self-awareness of using the tool, planning in terms of the amount of food and time that is sacrificed to the young chimp who is still learning, um, an acknowledgement that a young chimp would not know how to use a tool. Observing tool use and teaching this gives us insight into the social cognition of chimps and their understanding and experiences among others. Additionally, the use of a probing stick at all implies planning and knowledge of being able to see, like, conceptualize that there are termites even though they can't see them physically with their eyes. In the video that I'm going to show in the next slide, I discussed this earlier, but yeah, they learn, the young chimp sticks its hand in the hole and gets stung, and then uses the probe instead. Yeah, and then the photos on the left show a chimp mother and child. A chimp mother showing her child how to use the stick, or the probe. So I'm going to show this brief little video. It's a couple of minutes long. It's from National Geographic. I will say the voiceover is a little bit silly, but I think it does a really good job of showing exactly what I'm talking about, this tool use, and also it briefly covers the teaching of mothers as well, or mothers teaching their young.
What allegedly separates humans from the so-called lower animals? Supposedly, it's the ability to make and use tools. However, as you can see here, these chimpanzees make tools and use them to enjoy a tasty nut meat meal. Baby chimps begin experimenting at a young age, like this one that's learning how to use a stick. Female chimps demonstrate how it's done. Females are markedly better at using tools than males, despite what the males might tell you in private. It takes 10 years for a young chimp to master the art of creating a tool and using that tool to produce an edible foodstuff. And if you think that's complicated, let this chimpanzee mom give a lesson in the fine art of finding and then eating safari ants. First, Mom uses a wand selected and pruned for this delicate task. Now, the deal with safari ants is that they're a rich and delicious food source. But if you don't know how to eat them, they sting like crazy. Now, here's what not to do. Try to get safari ants, get frustrated, put hand in hole, and get stung not once, but twice. Now, here's how it's done. Get ants on a stick and gobble them down zippity-quick. These aren't the only tools that chimps have learned to use. This chimp uses a bone pick to get at some tasty marrow. Here, a chimp uses a piece of fruit as a sponge to get every bit of sweetness from the pulp. And this chimp uses chewed leaves as a sponge to quench a raging thirst. Are we humans actually more advanced than chimps? Could you figure out how to eat safari ants without getting eaten alive? Enough said.
All right, to conclude this presentation, I'd like to just say that overall these studies show advanced cognitive abilities that primates have, demonstrated through tool use. The ability to evaluate tools on physical properties that would best assist them in achieving a goal, planning intentionally to achieve goals, and to share knowledge socially to younger individuals and offspring. Based on this data, we can infer that primate cognition is advanced in the ways that it involves causal reasoning, planning, and learning socially. The second part of my conclusion, looking at tool use among non-human primates helps us understand they are much more intelligent than we ever could have imagined. Primates put careful thought and planning into tools they craft and use. They learn through observation and demonstration from other primates. They have deep capabilities of planning and causal understanding. Next, here are my works cited. And finally, here are my image sources, which I have labeled according to the slide that they're on. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you're having a great day.